Hello everyone and welcome to my CS24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Curse of Oak Island. More evidence of an ancient ship in the swamp is discovered. In this week's episode of The Curse of Oak Island, the swamp continues to be the most interesting part of the island, and we see some fascinating finds as the evidence for a ship buried in the marshy land begins to mount up. The guys started the show with their usual enthusiasm. Paul Troutman uttered the now common Oak Island refrain. Let's follow the clues and see where they lead. Let's go kick some Oak Island, but, responded Gary Drayton, never one to mince his words. The most exciting discoveries this week came from Gary Drayton's finds from the last couple of weeks. Marty Lagaina, Alex Lagaina, and Gary headed up to New Ross, Nova Scotia, to consult with blacksmith expert Carmen Legg on the two possible digging tools found 2 weeks ago and the iron strap found this week in the swamp. One of the items was dismissed immediately by Carmen as an old plate of some kind. Either way, it wasn't very exciting. However, the second item was clearly a digging or mining tool. He said it was a pickaxe that dated from the 1700s and was common in lots of European countries. But why use it in the swamp, he wondered. An excellent question indeed. Expert Carmen Legg suggests artifact is from a ship. Finally, Gary pulled out of a bag the iron strap he found previously. Now this is interesting, Carmen said, as a big excitable grin came over Gary's face. This is off a sailing ship. He very confidently stated that it was a bracket that would have held two timbers together. Could this mean the ship-shaped anomaly in the swamp is what it appears to be? An ancient treasure ship? If that wasn't exciting enough, Carmen pointed out that these brackets were from 1710 to 1790. That was 85 years before the discovery of the money pit, and as Gary pointed out, a time when pirates roamed the high seas. Carmen had a further revelation. He said the bracket had been in a fierce fire. He said, if you want to hide a ship, you burn it. What on earth were they trying to hide in the swamp? Marty, Alex, and Gary rushed off to tell the other guys the news. They found them drinking in the Mug and Anchor Pub, the perfect setting for a discussion on piracy and buried treasure. Old theories that a ship is buried in the swamp. Alex theorizes that the ship ran aground while full of treasure. He suggests that perhaps the crew were unable to unload the cargo, so they decided to hide the whole ship. Historian Charles Barkhouse then tells the group of the theory that a vessel entered the swamp, was unloaded of treasure, and then burnt. The guys have, of course, been long aware of old Fred Nolan's belief that a ship was buried in the swamp. Rick Lagaina then theorizes that the paved platform from the swamp might have been a rush-out attempt to get the ship unloaded. Marty asks Jack Begley if he's anxious to get back to digging, and Jack responds with, well, there's got to be more pieces of the ship in the swamp. That's the cue for the end of the meeting. It's time to follow the clues and see where they lead. The air over Oak Island carried the familiar scent of salt and marsh that morning, mingled with the sound of gulls crying overhead. The swamp, mysterious, stubborn, and unervingly silent, lay before the Lagaina brothers like a sleeping beast. For years, it had kept its secrets submerged beneath dark, brackish water. But today, Marty Lagaina was convinced it might finally give up another piece of the centuries-old puzzle. Rick Lagaina knelt by the shoreline, his boots sinking slightly into the mud. I've always said this place has a way of talking to you, he murmured, scanning the surface. The question is, are we listening closely enough? Nearby, Dr. Ian Spooner, the team's environmental scientist, studied a set of fresh sonar scans. His brow furrowed as he adjusted his glasses. These new readings aren't like anything we've seen before, he said. We're looking at shapes, not random debris. They have structure, alignment. This could be man-made. The word man-made carried a weight on Oak Island, a weight that hinted at hidden histories and long-forgotten voyages. The images from the sonar revealed what looked like a keel-shaped outline deep in the swamp's sediment. It was large, perhaps the remains of a vessel that had been dragged, dismantled, or deliberately sunk centuries ago. Craig Tester approached, his usual calm demeanor masking the excitement he clearly felt. "If this is what I think it is, then this swamp theory might not just be a theory anymore," he said. "We could be looking at definitive proof that a ship, maybe the ship, was brought here." The crew quickly set to work. Billy Gerhardt's massive excavator, already stationed on a nearby platform, roared to life. Thick mats of vegetation were carefully peeled away, revealing the darker, wetter mud beneath. Every scoop felt like it might expose something monumental, or nothing at all. Gary Drayton, detector in hand, waded into the shallow edge of the excavation zone. His metal detector emitted a sharp chirp almost immediately. "Now that's what I'm talking about, mate," he called out, his eyes widening. A few moments later, he pulled a small, corroded iron spike from the muck. "This could be a ship's fastener," Gary said, holding it up for the camera crew. "Square-shanked, hand-forged. We're talking pre-industrial here, maybe 16th, 17th century." Rick's voice grew quiet as he examined the find. "If these fasteners match the ones we found elsewhere on the island, we may have just tied the swamp directly to whoever built the money pit." But the swamp wasn't finished speaking. While the excavation continued, Tony Sampson arrived in his wet suit, ready to dive the deeper pockets of the murky water. Visibility was almost non-existent, but Tony had learned to navigate by feel. Slowly, his gloved hands brushed along something buried, a length of timber, smooth in places but with the unmistakable signs of craftsmanship. He surfaced, dripping and breathless. "There's more down there," he announced. "I think we've got ribs, like the ribs of a ship. And they're big." Ian Spooner's eyes lit up. "If these timbers can be dated, we could place this vessel in history and maybe understand how it ended up in the middle of a swamp." The implications were staggering. If an ancient ship had indeed been intentionally sunk and covered here, it could explain the strange artificial features they'd previously discovered. The paved stone area, the unusual coconut fiber, even the mysterious channels leading in and out of the swamp. As the day wore on, more fragments were uncovered. Planks with dowel holes, fragments of tarred rope, and a section of wood that appeared to have been scorched. It could have been burned deliberately, Marty speculated, maybe to hide the evidence after it was unloaded. Gary, still scanning the area, uncovered another metallic artifact, a heavy, ornate nail unlike the utilitarian spikes used in most shipbuilding. "Now, this is a beauty," he said with a grin. "Looks like something from a high-end vessel, maybe even decorative." Theories began to swirl among the crew. Was this ship a merchant vessel carrying treasure? A Templar transport bringing sacred relics to the New World? Or a pirate ship that had sailed into this secluded spot to hide its loot, dismantled to ensure no one else could follow?